Hello, friends. Welcome to our first podcast together. Welcome to Pour It On. This is a podcast about male friendship, about life's challenges and joys, and making the most of the time we have together. And our feeling is that when the chaos of life makes you want to bottle it in, don't do that. Pour it on. Grab a drink of choice. I am here with my friends. Enjoy the moment and let's do it. Let's pour it on. So my name is Ben Feller. I'm a father. I'm a writer. I am a former White House correspondent, and I am a partner at a firm called Mislansky and Partners. And I am also, importantly, Shaun, a Yankee fan.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, that's
We're just like that.
which you should be proud of right now. Coming off, wait, did the Dodgers sweep the Yankees? I just want to be clear. I mean, not to get the timing of this.
You asked for that, right? Ben. You asked
Kicking
for that.
It off.
It was 2 out of 3. We won the last one.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Congrats. Pouring on. I'm Shaun Emerson. I am a husband, a father, a entrepreneur, and most recently, a principal at Men Living, a Chicago-based nonprofit that brings men together for connection, healing, and thriving. Good to be here.
Nice.
Good to see you, my friend.
And I guess I go last. Am I going to go last every time? Is that the way this is going to work?
No. Next time you'll probably go first. I mean, no promises.
That's true. No, that's true. My name is Chris Lozier. I live in Chicago. A husband, father of 2 pretty awesome daughters. Former submarine officer in the Navy. Been in the nonprofit space for a long time, for 15 years, and still working at that. And then maybe most importantly, I'm a bluegrass picker. What does that mean, you ask? I play bluegrass music. I've played for 25 years with a band of dear friends of mine, and I play mandolin and guitar. So can't believe I get to do this with you two guys, who I admire deeply and laugh with often.
You know what? We're only a couple minutes in and I've already learned new things about both of you. I think that, so clearly we are going after the baseball political bluegrass crowd, which I think
that's the crowd. Yeah, it's a wide demographic.
All 11 people will be tuning in. Yeah. I love it.
That's what we're going for.
Yeah. Which is probably a great time to explain what the hell we're doing here. And I will take a first whack at that and say that a few years ago, I did 2 big things for me. I launched a children's book called Big Problems, Little Problems, about raising my son and trying to be a very present father and the lessons we taught each other. And at the same time, I was starting a new position as a partner at a communications firm. And in the course of all that, I got to meet Chris and Shaun through another podcast that they lead, and really sort of as a outgrowth of what Shaun talked about at Men Living, men coming together for true connection. And we've done a couple of recordings together of your podcast, and really I just said, hey, can we keep talking and see if there's something we could do together? Because there's a feeling of true fun and connection that I do not take for granted in my life in New York City, in the stage of my life in New York City. And we just decided to have some more conversations together, form our own podcast, and hopefully pull some people into this conversation with us, because I really don't know anybody in my circle, which is getting smaller, but I don't really know anybody in my circle who doesn't need true, real community. Community's out there, but I mean the real stuff that you like, I really want to spend some time and hear what's going on. And so we're going to do that with each other and hopefully with all of our listeners and see where it goes. That's how I see it. How do you see it, Shaun?
So I actually wrote a blog post yesterday for Men Living, and part of what I talked about is normalizing, making it normal for guys to come together like this for what I think is going to be authentic, vulnerable real conversation. Yeah, we're going to talk about baseball. We're going to talk about booze. We're going to talk about stuff that guys talk about, and then we're going to take it at another level deeper. And so I think that if we can begin to model this here, present, and a few people listen and say, "Wait, why aren't you talking like these guys talk?"
Yeah.
Then maybe some other people will come connect and want to be a part of it, and we'll grow from there. So that's why I'm here.
I gotta say, it just occurred to me when the three of us started dreaming up this podcast. I was super excited right away, and then for a second, I thought, well, maybe Shaun and I should go get someone who's not smarter and more eloquent than we are, someone who won't make us look bad. And yet here we are. Son of a bitch.
Oh, well, it did take me a second to realize you were talking about me, or not talking about me. I'm not
Okay,
that
so
smart.
so you're more
Was that a
eloquent.
double negative?
Wait, Jim Axelrod's going to listen. Is like, wait, you hooked up with those guys? What's up?
Right.
What
That's
happened to you? What happened?
There's so
to you?
many other Bens out there.
What
who
happened to you?
Yeah. Shaun, the way you talked about normalizing conversation among men and male friends, I think that it's really timely for me because we are recording this not long before Father's Day. And
Mhm.
one of the reasons that I wrote the book I did is because I love my son. And I thought there was a story to tell there about how I, trial and errored my way through parenting to find something that worked with him. And then one day when I was in trouble, he did the same thing back to me and calmed me down and showed he'd been listening to me about patience and perspective. And I just thought there was a real beauty to that to share. But once the book launched, there's a lot of books and like the children's books come out every day. And so the real meaning behind it was like, why are we still talking about fathers in a way that was from at least a generation ago?
Mhm.
So it went from like, oh, this is maybe an interesting conversation to broaden to something that now kind of really frankly bothers me. It's like, why are you doing that? Why are you taking a solo trip? Why are you handling the dentist or the eye appointments? Why are you so engaged with his teachers? And either people say these things or think these things. And of course, not everywhere. I live in a very diverse part of Brooklyn where a lot of dads are heavily involved. But generally speaking, I've been in a lot of places where people think that's not really the role of the dad. What's
Mhm.
going on over there? And I think the same thing is true broadly for men. There's all of these jokes about how two guys get together and then they come home and their wives or partners say, "What'd you guys talk about?" And they say
Right.
like they have nothing to
Oh,
say except for the new driver that they got on the golf course. But I actually the people that I am close with talk about hopes. They talk about pain. They talk about frustration. They talk about vulnerability. Um, and it's not abnormal to me. And I think that maybe even if we just let more people know that actually buddies talk like this, not everything has to be the stereotype of a bro. Even if we
yeah.
have some things that we like that would be associated with bro culture, like sports and booze. And by the
Mhm.
way, here's to that. Raise a glass to you
Mhm.
guys. You can have anything you want to drink. Our friends, as you do this, but our view is a cocktail or two is always good. But anyway, Shaun and Chris, that's where I was thinking about. Maybe we should just get, even if we do that much, bring more people in and
Yeah.
normalize what the definition is. That's a win.
Yeah, and as I was thinking about why are we doing this, it occurred to me, and this sort of is an extension, I think, of what you were saying, Ben. It's like, in one sense, it's way too easy not to do this, right? Which is not necessarily true. The more I sort of like unpack that, but I think, okay, historically, it's too easy not to check in. It's too easy not to talk about what's really going on or to talk about the hard stuff or. And I think that we may be able to normalize that or help people normalize that more. But I think, at least for me and Shaun, over the course of our podcast, it's become, I feel like those muscles in me have grown and strengthened.
Mm.
And so, that's a good thing. And then honestly, when push came to shove, I thought, well, look, Shaun and I would like to keep having these phone calls and these Zoom calls with Ben anyway, and it don't cost nothing to record it. And so there is a selfish part of this endeavor that I'm not too proud to admit. And, hopefully a couple people will go along for the ride.
Yeah, fantastic.
I think, sometimes I would say in the work that we do in trying to engage as many men as possible in these conversations and these connections, just the fact that we might touch one man or one person with what we're talking about, I think is really important. And I have to tell you the story that 2 days ago, Lisa and I, my wife, were walking, and weirdly we were going by our friend's house, and we texted them because we hadn't talked to them in a while. And she texted the wife, and the husband actually walked with his dog. We like ran right into him. And in the course of getting reconnected, he told us that his lifelong friend, 62 years old, had committed suicide.
Oh,
And tragic story, and as they always are. And it just made me think about this, what we're doing here, and the conversations that we're trying to have. And if one person, I mean, he had just been with the guy a couple of weeks before, and there was no conversation about it. If there's, one person that sees that, hey, three guys can come together and have these vulnerable conversations about how they're feeling and who they are and who they want to be and what they're afraid of and what they love, then maybe we help one person. So
yeah. That's
uh,
really glad you shared that. I'm so sorry to hear that, but I think that's very sorry to hear that. But that's a really telling example of why you have real conversations. You
yeah,
never know who might be able to help you turn a corner. And it's interesting as I reflect on that story, Shaun. I had lunch today with a wonderful human being, Jim Axelrod, who's a journalist, and I covered the White House at the same time he did for CBS, and we hadn't seen each other in a while. But he really frames every conversation about me and kind of what's going on with me, and I'm pushing back to make sure that that is not just the case. How are you doing? How are
yeah,
your kids? Where are you in travel? And he'll go there, but he's like really like, I want to know what's going on with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is uncommon. And then there's nothing about me that feels uncomfortable with that. I'm like, okay, like I'm not. I'll tell you. Here's what's going well. Here's what's
yeah.
not going well. What do you think? And it was really helpful to me to talk about it, and just great perspective. But he was commenting about his circle has gotten smaller and how things change over time. And I mentioned that we were going to have this podcast, and he thought it was fascinating. He's like, that'll be great for listeners, for you, just to have fun with it.
Mhm.
Which, by the way, is a word that I use very carefully and judiciously. Not that, sometimes people will get off a call and they're like, "Oh, that was fun." And I'm looking at them like, "Nah, you're not using that word right."
Well, wait,
That might
wait.
have been that might
So
have
let,
been good or productive, but like you got to put fun at a higher level. you know?
okay. So elaborate on that. Like it
I just think like how
don't minimize. They were kind of minimizing it.
no, no, no. I think it's a peculiarity of me, but I think that there's just certain words. I'm in the business of language, and I think
Yes.
when I say you can either have the most amazing tuna melt you've ever had, or you can have the worst meal of your life. Okay. But you can't have both those things every day. It just doesn't make sense. You can't live your life in the absolutes every day. Like I thought that yesterday was your most amazing meal. No, now today's, but that was the worst. I'm like, okay, it's exhausting. Most of us live in the middle. You want
Right.
amazing. You certainly don't want terrible, but you're like, it was a good day. And so when people say like, oh, that was a really fun meeting, it just triggers me in the sense that when I think fun, I think talking to you guys, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
listening to my son's story. The sound of the Mission Impossible theme when it comes on. I've been waiting for this movie.
Yeah.
But just fun is at a different level, and I appreciate it when it happens. And a lot of times there are a lot of days that aren't, and I just don't think that we should just categorize things that way, because it kind of, to me, diminishes it. It's like, okay, how was your weekend? Great, good.
Yeah.
Like you don't really want to know. You're
Yeah.
just doing the thing, and try to save the specialness of the word and the feeling. That's
So So wait, Chris, before you go. So the best sourdough, I mean, the best tuna melt has sourdough, right? Sourdough bread,
Oh,
right?
that's
I mean,
I don't think actually I don't think I've had my best tuna melt ever because I got to get one of those.
Yeah,
y-
I think that when Ben and I come out to visit you in Palm Springs, that you should make us sour melts, patty melt or tuna melts on sourdough.
I think you
That's
should
the
call them sour melts.
we'll probably go to We'll probably go to
sour melts.
we'll probably go to Sherman's Deli down the street and have them
I'm good
make
with
it
that too.
because they make a good one. Yeah.
By the way,
Um,
take that line's going to be like on a repeat, Shaun. When
Which
Ben and
one?
I come to Palm Springs, yeah, it's just we're gonna work that in every time.
It's
no,
done deal.
yeah,
Right.
no, Ben, like Shaun doesn't joke about that. He's like,
Yeah.
come on
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
A quick side note, not a side note. Something you said made me think of this, Ben. This when you sit down with somebody and they say, "How you doing?" Manish and I worked with a therapist years ago, and this is not any sort of like magic secret or whatever, but it was she recommended to us that like when you come home from work, instead of saying how you doing, say what was it like to be you today? Because
Mm.
it's harder to side skirt that question, right? Like it's harder to just say I'm fine, right? You now sort of have to answer with some context a little bit, and I think that when we think about our friends who we've lost or our friends who have lost friends for whatever reason, but for mental health reasons especially, you kind of gotta probe a little bit more, I think, than just to say, hey, how's it going? How you doing? So I don't know. It's something that I'm not perfect at practicing it. It doesn't always solve the problem. Not that there is a problem, but it's something that I've taken with me for a long time. Like really, you got to
Yeah.
dig a little.
I I don't know that I want to know what it's like to be you though. I mean, that kind of scares me a little bit.
You talking to me or Ben?
I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you.
It's
I'm not
What's it
that
like to,
scary,
what's it like
Chris.
to be, what's it like to be you? Yikes.
Oh, that's a whole other question. Holy shit. You're not allowed to ask me that, right?
Oh, all
That's
right.
for me to ask you. But yeah, it's I think that the other thing I thought of when we thought of this crazy idea is like if I was so lucky that you guys lived 2 blocks from me,
Yeah.
my hope would be that we would go over to Half Acre and drink a beer, even if it was only a half an hour every couple of weeks, just to do this, to check in. And sometimes the check in is on Aaron Judge, and sometimes the check in is
Hmm.
on job or parenting or whatever.
Yeah, I think even just listening to you both talk about this, it makes me so glad we're doing it and so wish I had it more because there's a big difference between the check-in and checking the box. And so much of what happens is checking the box and or a checklist conversation. You kind of covered it. You did your thing. And you know what? I shouldn't probably disparage that either, but I mean a check-in is like, listen, no matter how long this takes, just tell me how you're doing. Which again goes
Hmm.
back to the lunch I had with my
Yeah.
friend Jim today. Tell me how you're doing. And this isn't an elevator ride. When we get off the floor, that's not the end of the conversation because
Hmm.
usually that's how the
Hmm.
check-ins go, right? How was your weekend? How was your weekend? And you got about 9 seconds, and they're not really. I mean, imagine if somebody says, "How was your weekend?" and you're like, "Oh man, we went to this amazing music festival, and like the sun came out, it was great, and people invited us over, and we
Yeah.
decided to spend the night and go camping. Oh, that's awesome! All right, have a good day." But if what but what actually happened that weekend is like, oh, I got into this massive fight, with a good friend of mine, and I don't think we're going to be able to work it out, and it's probably going to get turned into a financial mess too because we were in the business together, and then the elevator goes ding, and they're like, "All right, well, good luck with that," like because they're not actually asking how you're doing. It's a checklist, and so when Chris, if you're like, "Yeah, let's do a check in every so often," I'm like, "Yeah, what you're talking about is real."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and I'm sure you'd probably want to hear more about the music festival than the other thing, but still, it's like one of the best moments I ever had was with a buddy of mine here in Brooklyn, and he asked me how I was doing, and I told him, and he asked me a second time, and he's like, "Listen, no bullshit,
Yeah.
human to
Yeah.
human, how are you?"
Yeah.
And when he said it that way the third time, I had nothing left but to say, "Okay," and it was a deeply revealing conversation on two bar stools that meant a lot to me, and he knows this, and so that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the kind of check-in I think we all need.
I've lost track of time, and we had committed to half an hour, but I have to bring this full circle for a second because what you said reminded me of one of my most rewatchable movies, which is Moneyball. I don't know if you guys remember the scene where David Justice's character, the guy playing David Justice, is talking to the young guy who I forget his name, who hit the home run to win the 20th straight
Oh,
game or
Hatterberg.
whatever.
Yeah, Scott Hatterberg.
Scott Hatterberg. And he's like, how's it going, Hatterberg, or whatever? And he's like, oh, it's not going really well. And Justice is like, okay, good luck with that, and walks away, just like exactly like you just did.
Yeah, no, he's like, what do you fear playing first base? He's like,
Yes.
a ball anywhere in my direction ever. And he laughs at him. He's like, no, I mean it. And he's like, oh, okay, well, good luck with that. Yeah.
It's so good. I fucking love that movie. Okay.
Half
Did we
hour
already-
is nothing. Half
did we
hour is
already
like
blow
nothing.
through a half an hour.
I think we did.
Mercy.
When we said a half hour, I'm like, okay, but I mean, we're gonna get through intros in a half hour.
To be clear,
Yeah.
when we said half an hour, I proposed half an hour, we'll have one drink, and you just about fell out of your chair and said, one drink, half an hour? You know, that's at least two drinks. That's exactly what you said, Shaun.
I did, and I realized that I have a problem. So we can make it whatever 45 or
Oh yeah,
half hour is
30,
kind of cool.
30 to 40 minutes, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we'll try to keep ourselves accountable.
I'm just still trying to figure out the propriety and the logistics of having this whiskey while I'm talking to you guys, because I really want to drink more.
Yeah.
But
That's a good sign. That's a metric of success.
Yeah, right.
yeah. All right. Well,
Is that on the fun scale, Ben? Where does that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Where does that
everything
fit on
we're
the
talking
fun
about,
scale?
everything we're talking about is on the fun scale for sure on this
good.
conversation. Yeah.
Good.
All right, Chris, just for movie trivia before we maybe wrap up, I was telling this story the other day. Or maybe it was today they wrote together. Anyway, another great movie is As Good as It Gets with Jack Nicholson. You guys remember this movie?
Great movie. Oh yeah.
And I'll butcher the scene a little bit, but he's in the back and Greg Kinnear and Helen Hunt are in the front. And they're talking about struggles in life, and he's like, you're just jealous of the people that have it good. And they're like, no, that's not it at all, And he starts talking about how, of course there are people that are happy. They're on park benches and they go down to the water and they have picnics and they have noodle salad. He's like, that's their whole life. Good times, noodle salad. I believe that those people exist. There's just none of them in this car. and I've thought about that scene so many times, and like it's a shorthand with a couple of friends of mine. Like, how's it going? I'm like, good times, noodle salad. Like,
that's great.
We should be so lucky. Yeah. So maybe we'll just fill up every half hour with movie quotes.
Then I'll lose because it's like books, movies, golf courses. I'm in them and I'm out and I don't remember anything.
Same.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that one just was top of mind because I just remembered how clever and biting that was. All right. Well, maybe we'll round the bend, Chris, this way. And let me ask you guys, as we start this adventure, what is top of mind for you today? This is a check-in, not an elevator check-in, a real one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's going on with you, Chris? I'll go with you first.
Well, so I think that I resigned from my position. I've got a new role. I'm going to start in the interim. I feel really good. I feel better mental health wise than I have in a long time. And I'm extremely excited about this. Again, if for no other reason than the fact that I get to see you two clowns every couple of weeks. If there's a bit of nervousness, it's because it occurred to me that the three of us are not likely to ever be experts, all three of us, on any one topic we cover. And in many cases, we're going to be over, right? Like none of us are going to be experts on things. And then I remind myself that this is a gift and that it's not about being expert. It's just about being authentic and vulnerable. So I'm feeling authentic. I'm feeling vulnerable. I'm feeling pretty excited and appreciate you both.
Amazing. That's amazing.
Expertise is overrated, I think.
Totally.
Yeah. You asked about my hat. You referenced my hat, Ben, my backroads hat.
Yeah.
Lisa and I are leaving for France tomorrow for a couple of weeks. So we're going on a backroads trip to the south of France. And so honestly, that's top of mind for me. So
that's amazing.
excited.
Is that involve hiking, I assume?
It does. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a hiking trip. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, I look
Have
forward
you been on a backroads trip?
Yeah, my son Sam and I did a trip to Montana and Wyoming a couple of years ago, and
Okay.
it actually grew out of watching an episode of Modern Family, where the episode starts and they're at a dude ranch, and hilarity ensues. But Sam looks at he looks at the backdrop and he goes, an actual quote. He's like, "Is that real? Like, does that exist?" I'm like, "That's in our country."
Yeah,
man. Like, we got to get you out of the East Coast. And so we went whitewater rafting, horseback riding, 25-mile bike ride. We went, over a lake in the Grand Tetons, hiking through Yellowstone, stayed at a ranch. He bought a cowboy hat. I don't know where that cowboy hat is, but at the time, so yeah, it was great. And I always like to gut check these things. Like, do I think it's great? Do I want it to be great for him? And I always stop. And he had a great time. He had a great time. So
they do a great job.
Oh yeah. Huge fan of Backroads from that. I got to go back. So I will say what is top of mind for me is, among many things, as you can tell, I lost a sister this year, and my sister Debbie, she died on March 1st, and so it's been 3 months. We had the memorial this past weekend, and it was very small, very quiet. It was spreading her ashes at a park in the Binghamton area where she lived, and I'm still thinking about it. And I think it's I bring it up in the context of this podcast because there's how you are supposed to feel, should feel, and then there's actually how you do. And I think I'm always trying to close that gap. And so how I was supposed to feel was, this is what she wanted. We're gathered in places that she loved. People seem lighter and happier. And I'm like, that's all true. That's not how I feel. I'm not going to be able to go where the rest of you are. I actually don't mind that you're there. I'm glad that you're there. I'm not there. This doesn't feel quite right to me. Like, it was right that we did it, but it just felt still, I miss her. And I wasn't following a calendar of how you're supposed to feel at 3 months based on the vibe of the thing. And so I felt a little out of step with it. And that's okay. I'm not wondering what was going on there. I know exactly what was going on there, but that just happened. And so, I'm working through that, I think, in a very healthy way. And I'm glad that my family is working through it in their own way too. Everybody seemed, in a good place. But anyway,
did you share that, Ben, with anybody else?
I did. I just shared it with Shaun and Chris.
Over a drink.
I've been kicking it around in my head since we got back on Sunday. I'm like, that didn't really go well for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is supposed to feel like. And that's where I'm like, aha, that's the problem. Like, it's not supposed to feel like anything. How you feel is how you feel. So, and that is exactly the kind of thing, no kidding, that when people say, how was your weekend? I'll be like, yeah, it was fine. How was yours? Like, I don't want to bring people into that. Why would I burden them with that?
Yeah.
But if we're going to talk about what's going on, that's what's going on.
Well, still sending you love, my man.
Always.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're going to talk about here for sure. So
yeah, I appreciate you both. And so I will say to all of our first-time listeners, thank you for joining us on this first ever episode. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, we would just ask that you come back. And if you want to tell other folks about this, please do. You will find this podcast where, Shaun?
On Apple or Spotify.
Apple or Spotify. Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. And, if you want to learn any more about us as individual people, you can find us on LinkedIn. But we will be back here. And remember, you do not have to bottle it in. Join us. Let us pour it on together.